blaming ourselves, that whole low self-esteem moment, right? I'm a victim. It's really pride also. It's the same, it's two sides of the same coin. And I was like, oh man, that bites, but no kidding, that's true. I don't have that much impact. I'm not that powerful. I'm trying to control things that I really have no control over and that are going to go how they're going to go, whether I show up or not. Like it was really eye-opening.
Welcome to another episode of What to Say and How to Say It. Today we are discussing what to say when the other person remains stuck in victim mode. So I have our expert, Nina Rosner, who is going to help us figure that out today. So Nina, I don't know about you, but being in victim mode seems to happen to the best of us. We know what God says. We know the truth. We know that we are supposed to own when we make a mistake. We know we're supposed to take responsibility, but somehow, some way, we find ourselves in situations where we can't see our part. Tell me your thoughts around why do you think that's such a struggle for us?
Well, I had to laugh. I mean, I'm sitting here chuckling because you called me an expert, and I'm sitting here thinking I was ready to send out invitations to the pity party. I was like having this morning, like it's scheduled. No, I wasn't in the pit, but I was circling the thing like a buzzard. I just knew everything in the world that was wrong was not my fault, and because something happened and somebody did something, and it's not a small thing to me, and it really hurts, right? Mm-hmm. And so it takes a lot to tip me over. I was tipped over. And it's funny that we're talking about this today, because my initial thought was, well, this isn't fair. This should not have happened. I'm fighting reality. So there's that. But within us, I think, is this desire to be heard, to be seen, to be known. And when things happen and we don't have that, in the form of validation or a different kind of experience with it, we're off on our own doing the, Lone Ranger thing. And that it just makes everything worse, and the enemy uses that. It was ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, you said something that really resonates, and that is it feels unfair. And I think, especially when you're raised, and we are definitely raised in a society where we teach fairness, anything that feels that way is automatic triggering. If you feel like someone is cheating you out of something, someone owes you something, or you got the short end of the stick in a situation, that just, makes anyone want to scream, So I find that interesting, that that's the mindset that we often go to when we know life is not fair. Sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose, but man, no one wants to lose, right? So
it's a common experience, I think, that we all have. Thankfully, I have it less than I used to, but it's real and it's there. The outcome for this, because I had something happen to me. I work with some of the most amazing people, and when something happens and I'm upset, sometimes it'll be a couple weeks, but somebody will notice that I'm not quite me and reach out. Well, today, it took just a matter of hours, because I didn't go to a thing I was supposed to go to. And my friends at this thing called me up as a group, and they were like, okay, what is going on? And they were up in my face hard about it. And it was awesome. They called me out and they were like, we need to know what's going on with you. You are not right. You missed this morning. It's not okay. We love you. What's up? And I just couldn't believe like that was amazing to me. I haven't had that happen for a while I've never had a group of people be like, look, we're doing a shakedown, sister, like you're whatever, it was amazing. And that's one of the things, to what to say. It, the piece of, if we know somebody that's stuck in victim mode, they need to reach out. They need a, hey, what is going on with you? You're not yourself. What are you telling yourself? What are the stories you're telling yourself? And what's happening for you? Because just letting somebody know that you care and that you miss them, that you noticed. Like, I had no idea that my absence would mean anything to anybody. Like that's where I was, right? And one of my friends said, I'm just going to be real rude to you right now. I'm going to tell you, I missed you today. I was looking forward to getting a hug from you and seeing you and doing this thing, and you weren't there and you let me down. I'm like, what? Because I was in such a place of, and that's the thing we don't see, is that our presence is really a gift to other people sometimes. Like, I never think that way, like never, like that never occurs to me. And so it was shocking. And what a gift, right? Like, so what to say would be, hey, you're missed. What's going on? You're not alone. We want to be in this with you. So I hope everybody listening has a posse of some sort. And if you don't, start forming one, because man, you can't get through this without them.
Yeah, I love that. I have a couple people in my life that are like that, where they will, if they haven't heard back from me after a call or a text, they'll intervene. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm hearing. It's an intervention that sometimes needs to happen to snap us out of this thinking that we get into. And a lot of that stuff, if you don't address it, it can turn into, something uglier, like bitterness and resentment. Mm-hmm. And we know God says that we should put that away. He says, let all bitterness and wrath and clamor and all that stuff be put away. So it's better to nip it in the bud as early as possible. I want to quickly let our listeners know that our focus, our audience that we are trying to reach in particular in these episodes is Christian men and women who have been to the therapists, who've read the books, who've, been to the counselors, and they're still stuck in this dynamic. We have a free ebooklet available on our website, greaterimpact.org, we think would really help. We focus on all sorts of different scenarios, and we want you guys to take a look. If you have 5 minutes, download it. We've got some other goodies. We do coaching and other fun things. So check us out in your free time. So back to the what to say. Okay, what to say when a person is stuck in blame. So I had a situation myself, because this happens to all of us, where it's been a busy week. Actually, this was just a day or so ago. It's back to school time here in Texas. And that means lots of people on the road. School buses are back on the road. Schedules are getting busier. There's social activities and events and meet and greets that are happening.
I hate all of that. I don't know how you do it.
So, it's nuts, right? And it's hot, right? So we've been in 3-digit summer weather for, 2 months now. So, of course, in the midst of the craziness and the heat, my AC in my car decides it doesn't want to function anymore. So, I'm in the car and running around, of course, with, this schedule that I have, and I've got my 3 littles with me, and, we're all suffering.
I think it's needless suffering too. Like, wow. Misery.
So when you're little and you're suffering, you start to get louder in your suffering. When you're an adult, you can kind of suffer in silence, but if you're little, it doesn't really work that way. So sorry, you had a question?
No, it's like, mommy, it's hot.
Yeah. Mommy, it's hot. What's happening? And mommy is pushing every button she can to fix this and nothing's working. So
Mommy, it's still hot. Mommy. Every 5 seconds.
Every 5 seconds. And then on top of that, there's traffic, backed up on the highway. So we're not getting to our destination as fast as we'd like to get out of the heat. So you got all that happening. So mommy jumps right into victim mode. So
awesome.
It's the traffic's fault. It's, the scheduling. It's, the kids yelling. It's their fault. And after a while, I started to hear myself. I thought, none of that is true.
Yeah, it'd all be fine if we just had air conditioning.
Right. I really don't have anyone to blame here. So maybe I should just be quiet or think of something else that might be a little more productive in this moment. Yeah. So, yeah.
So what'd you do?
Well, I suffered, all the way home, eventually everybody got quiet and fell asleep. And then it dawned on me, well, maybe try rolling the windows down next time. Something simple.
You're on the freeway, on the concrete, in a hot car that's getting hotter. And so it's 104 in the car and 100 or 102 outside or something. It made a huge difference, I bet.
Yeah. Well, it's like you suffer with a little bit of noise and heat, but maybe some wind blowing on your face. Or you just drenched the whole way. So yeah, it was not fun. But it's interesting because our minds automatically go to that blame, and we don't think of what the right solution is in the moment. Often it's something very simple could have really brought some relief to the situation, but it happened 2 hours later.
Oh my word. Yeah, no, that's the worst, right? And it's interesting, you mentioned blame. That's what came out of, that was a big awareness for me today, because I was blaming myself for like 40 things that were not even related to what happened to me. And so I know it's useless to blame other people. Well, so let's take that to the other extreme, because I like to take responsibility for stuff, right? Oh, I'm overdoing it. Like I'm making myself so responsible for so many stupid things. And one of my friends, when I was voicing some of this, she was like, so what is it about you that thinks you're that cool? I'm like, oh, what?
Whoa.
Yeah, I know, right? Because she's not wrong. I mean, blaming ourselves, that whole low self-esteem moment, right? I'm a victim. It's really pride also. It's the same. It's two sides of the same coin. And I was like, oh man, that bites, but no kidding. That's true. I don't have that much impact. I'm not that powerful. I'm trying to control things that I really have no control over, and that are going to go how they're going to go, whether I show up or not. Like it was really eye-opening.
Wow.
And that's a friend, man, that can say something like that to you, yeah. And you think it's I mean, I don't think I was thinking that I was all that, but I certainly was thinking too highly of myself in a different way. And whether it's our circumstances or with the air conditioning, or whether it's a thing that somebody does that leaves you interpreting and feeling XYZ, we got to have some different conversations with ourselves. Like that you got control of yourself. Me too. Although I apparently needed help and intervention.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I think that our gauge is off, when we're in that state of mind, and we can either take too much responsibility or not enough. And a healthy mindset is when you own what is yours to own, and what is not yours to own, you leave that with that person. And I think that's very important as well, because yes, we often do think we are God. I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah.
And we are all powerful and almighty, and that is just not the truth.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, one of my friends asked me, she goes, Nina, who is God in all of this?
Mm.
And it was a great, in terms of what to say, they were validating, they were empathetic, they listened to me. That was amazing. But then they challenged me, right? Like they sat down there. Well, I wasn't in the pit. I was circling like a buzzard, like I said, like, let's keep the buzzard analogy there. There was no dead body yet, but I knew one was coming. But they're flying around the pit with me, right? And Brene Brown has this little video on YouTube about this. And the right answer is to climb down in the pit and sit with somebody, roast a marshmallow or two with them as they, or eat a sandwich or something. I think the video has them eat a sandwich, but yeah, you join them in the now that they're in with empathy and validation. There is nothing in the world like that. It's like salve for a broken heart, an open wound. It's exactly what is needed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was beautiful. And it helped me remember who I was and who he is. And okay, Nina, like, really, can I question some of these thoughts that I'm having? And once again, I was able to. And then, an hour later, I'm fine. Like, wow, that's cool. Love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. So this is kind of in line with the steps is kind of what I'm hearing that we talk about all the time. So what to say when they're in victim mode? I'm hearing you validate, you comfort that person, sit and roast a marshmallow or have a sandwich, and then maybe challenge them with what is true. Does what they believe line up with truth? Chances are, if you've sat with that person and validated and brought comfort, they are going to open up to that truth. I find that happens often in these challenging moments. And we can do it with ourselves too. If there's no one to talk to, we can ask ourselves the question, is what I'm believing, the story I'm telling myself, is this true? Am I really a victim here? So very powerful stuff. So question time. What do you do if the person blames you? What if you're the target in that situation?
Yeah, guns and lawyers. No.
Well, that's one option.
Yeah, that is an option. I mean, for real, it is. And that seems to be our knee jerk, right? Sorry, I was trying to be funny. That's not helpful. Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, like I've got this thing. We're doing a marriage intensive, and it's really common for couples to blame each other in the situation. And what is hilarious to me, well, and it's not really funny, but it is kind of like, wow, they don't even see this. Like there's so much blindness. They'll blame the other person, and then the other person will blame them. And then they'll say, they use the word victim. They say that other person's being a victim. And then the other one will say the other person's being a victim. And they're doing exactly the same thing. Yeah. And neither one of them can see it.
Right.
Or if one of them's blaming the other for being a victim, and this is really, really common. What's interesting is in that blaming, they're doing the same thing. It's just a different sin, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So there's just sin going back and forth. It's like pickleball, just boom, 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 all over the place. Like get your own court, figure it out. But that whole thing. And what I tell them is, first of all, when you are blaming your spouse, you've launched into the enemy's territory with verbal accusations. You're useful to Satan. So stop it. None of that's useful. There's using you language. You did this, you did that. You think this, you always, you never, blah, blah, blah. So stop saying that. In the what to say department, don't do any of that. It's called a cognitive distortion. Knock it off. It's unhealthy. What do you do instead? Is you talk about the facts, and then you talk about what you want instead, right? That's what you want to do. Is this thing happened? I'd like it if this would happen instead. Boom. Then the other person's an adult, or they're supposed to be. Now, if they're acting like a child, they're going to ignore that request and they're going to stay stuck in their own whatever. But when somebody's blaming you, so this is why we encourage people, to go to our strength and dignity class, to do coaching, to do these things, because that relationship with God moves you into a space where you can be bulletproof. And most of the time, I love this. I'm there most of the time. Like, not recently, like I have my moment where I'm okay, now I have a thing to work through. Like, what is it about this particular thing? So I'm going to go get coaching around that. But the point is that the more of this that we do, the more layers we peel back, the more we explore why we have these reactions, and the more we allow God to heal those things, then the more we can show up in a healthy way in there. So a healthy response to somebody blaming me for whatever, which is where you started. Sorry, long answer. my mouth is like a runaway train at the moment. So sorry. But when I'm being blamed for a thing, there's a number of things we can say, especially if it's not true. But the first thing that person needs is validation. Mm-hmm. And so what do you do with that? So you summarize the feelings that they're throwing at you. You ignore the you language. You just, boom, that bounces off of you. It's accusation. You don't interact with evil. It's gone. You don't, just leave it be. And then, so you're feeling frustrated because, this thing happened and, this is your reality is terrible, is awful. And, this is frustrating for you. Well, yeah, it's frustrating. Well, what else? Tell me more about that. Well, it's feeling and threw some yous in there and all that. You ignore the yous and you just validate. That is awful. And this is a neat thing that constantly comes out of coaching, is that you can have multiple truths in a single conversation. Like, you can have somebody that is angry and upset, and you can join them in their expression of that and be sad with them over the loss of whatever it is, even if they caused it themselves and they're blaming you for it. So you don't have to own any of it. So validation doesn't mean that you're owning it, but what it does is it helps the person feel heard. Mm-hmm. And then you can interact with them. If they're blaming you, they're probably not going to be interested in any kind of different truth. They really aren't most of the time if they're that kind of person. But if they're in a space of where you're actually somebody that has influence in their life, a day later, you might be able to come back and say, hey, how you doing with that thing? And, you're saying you felt XYZ. Is that better for you today? And then maybe, have a thought about XYZ. Are you open to it? And if they're not, don't give it. Like, you're not responsible for them and their growth.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is tough stuff. It's usually involving a lot of emotions. And if you're married, there's probably some history there and some patterns there.
Yeah.
So it sounds really simple and like this shouldn't be hard, but
yeah. No, but you're dealing with somebody who's acting like a toddler, right? So if you don't validate them, they just get louder. They say the same blaming things and they're just louder, right? Yeah. So there's that. There's another phrase I love to use, which is, that's an interesting perspective. I don't know what I think about that. Or, that's an interesting perspective. I guess you can look at it like that. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Which is most of the time true, because I don't spend my time thinking somebody's terrible, right?
Yeah.
But if somebody else is stuck in that victim mindset, that's where they live, and you're terrible. So.
Yeah. And sometimes that's what it takes to get them out of that. It's like, okay, I hear you. And validation, just so our listeners know, it's not agreement. It's not the same thing. They may say you're crazy, you're nuts, and it's all your fault. And you can still say, that's interesting. And, tell me more.
and even more than that, so you're from where you're sitting, I'm crazy and I'm nuts. And this is frustrating for you. Am I getting that? Is that what you're telling me? Absolutely.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah. I just want to make sure I hear you. See, what you resist persists.
Mhm.
So if you want to help somebody move past their own whatever it is, whether it's anger or victim thinking, you have to validate it. There's no other way around it. They dig their heels in. And it's we all do this. I wish I didn't. You've already heard the beginning of the podcast. They're my example. It's a childish thing to do. Let's just call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's immature. I'm acting like a 3-year-old. Okay, that's what we're doing.
Right.
But you saw from your own example that when you calm down and you have the right mature conversation with yourself, then suddenly your brain works and, oh, maybe I can roll the windows down, oh, there's other options here. That's how that works.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, God help us.
Amen.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope that we have really shed some light on what to say when either it's you or the other person is stuck in that victim mindset. And just to summarize, some tips are validate. Start with that. It doesn't mean you have to agree. Just validate, repeat, ask questions. Then comfort them. If they're open to being in your presence, sit with them, have a marshmallow, a sandwich, and just listen to them. And then if God allows, try moving into the truth and challenging that person to see things maybe from a different perspective than they do. We all need that. And sometimes it's tough getting there, and we just need someone to help. Another thing you can do, if they start to blame you, if they can't get out of that mindset, take a break, come back later.
Yep.
Do more validating if you need to, but keep coming back to the situation until people are calm and brain cells start working again. It's a process, and it can take time to train well in doing this. But if you do get this well and get this right, it'll change the entire dynamic of your relationship with yourself and with others. And you can start showing up differently and maybe solving some problems.
That'd be awesome.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. And you can check out more episodes on our YouTube channel. And we hope that you learned something today.